From garage sales to thrift store aisles, we hunt for treasure, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day, flipping finds, turning profit our way. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another live Monday mini-sode.
That's right, a live Monday mini. And one of my favorite parts about the live, other than interacting with all of our amazing listeners on YouTube and Facebook, and even over on X, other than that, which is clearly the best part of a live, is the intro stream starts soon song. Man, I feel like, Orlando, I don't know if you'd be embarrassed about me mentioning this, but I remember when we first started the podcast, we used to joke around like, wouldn't it be cool if like we got really big and like we were like at a convention or something and it had Pure Hustle Podcast behind us? And like in my mind, if that were to ever happen, which I don't think it would, but if that were to ever happen, I feel like that would be the song that'd be playing, right? Like we'd be walking out like WWE style with that like jamming.
Now, I will say we kind of did get that after the first year. We got invited to eBay, right? eBay Open, and we actually were one of the presenters, which to me is still wild.
But they didn't play our intro music, so you know.
Yeah, we should have made them do it. But you know what's crazy about that? Back then, I think we had like maybe 900 followers on Instagram. Like we weren't even that. Like we probably had like a few hundred listeners. And you know, good old Snoop Dougie Doug helped us out and hooked us up. So thank you, Doug, if you ever listen to this podcast anymore, when you used to work at eBay. So, hey, thank you to everybody that's here. Today, we're going to talk about, and actually, this is kind of a shortened form of what we're talking about in our long form. And so on Wednesday, we have a long form podcast. Come check us out if you haven't checked us out yet. We're going to discuss what we believe is eBay's new direction, because eBay definitely has changed over the last, I would say even the last year, it's changed as far as its focus. And this one, we're going to talk about the fact that everything stores. So like the garage sale store, the store that has everything. I don't know. We're not too sure if that's in eBay's new direction. We're going to talk about that for a little bit. But before we get started, I just want to say everybody, hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Patrick Kehoe, for always joining us. Thank you, Jay. You know what's going on. Rise and Grind Picker and everybody else that is watching. Appreciate all you guys. If you ever have any questions, this is an interactive live. And so even if it's not directly related to the topic, it's all good. We want to talk about reselling here.
You know what they really want to know, Orlando, is what product we use in our beards.
I'm gonna. Well, we need to get sponsored by. You know what? I need to reach out. We used to do Skull Shaver stuff, and then I don't know what happened with that. But we haven't done anything for beards, and we need somebody to sponsor us for beards.
All right. So getting back into the meat here, while everyone's here. So we've all heard the term enthusiastic buyer. If you've listened to Pure Hustle Podcast for a while, we've talked about this term, especially whenever there is like an earnings report that comes out or a interview with the CEO of eBay. And one of the things they keep pushing is this idea of enthusiastic buyers. And I kind of will go into a lot more detail on my beliefs about what an enthusiastic buyer is and why eBay uses that on our long form podcast. But the shortened part of it is an enthusiastic buyer essentially is the big time buyers on eBay, the people who are coming in and spending a lot of money buying lots of things. These are like your collectors, the people coming in buying baseball cards, and every month they're dropping a lot of money on baseball cards or on car parts because they're fixing up a car. And eBay is saying that most of their money, a significant portion of the profit that's coming in from sales, of the gross sales that is happening on eBay, is coming from these types of buyers. Now, I see this as a negative thing in a lot of ways, because what that's telling me is eBay's having a hard time picking up just a wider net of people who are coming to eBay, and maybe just once every couple months they're buying a thing or two. And so because they're having a hard time catching those buyers, catching just the everyday person who's, walks into Walmart and buys an item, or goes onto Amazon and buys an item here and there, they're focusing in on those specific people who are spending lots of money at one given time consistently throughout the year. And so because of that, eBay recognizes that a portion of their money, a big portion of their money, is coming from those buyers. So that is where they're pushing their focus on the platform, that the algorithm, they want to ensure that the buyer experience for those buyers is the best as possible. And to me, that makes sense from a business aspect in a way, right? Like if you know, just like, for instance, like if donors, right? Like if you're a company and you've got donors, like if you're a nonprofit organization and you've got a bunch of people who give you $1, and then you have one person who's giving you $100,000, you're going to cater to that person giving you $100,000. But the problem is, so that makes sense that they cater to those buyers who are coming in and buying consistently. The hard thing is that number of enthusiastic buyers, that percentage is not growing, and they're not necessarily growing the everyday just donating in their audience either. But they have to find a way in the short term to keep the buying experience as good as possible for those enthusiastic buyers.
Yeah, so I think that goes in line with why the everything store is not part of eBay's new direction, or the garage sale store, or everything, because those enthusiastic buyers are coming to your store because there are certain items that they want to buy a lot of, according to eBay, right? They want to be repeat buyers, right? So that could be a certain collectible, that could be a certain vintage clothing item, that could be something in a very niche area. And so I do think it's going to get more difficult, and I think we already see that now. There are people that, are the anomalies that do very well with everything stores, but I think if you're doing an everything store, you need to get to a place where maybe you have 3 or 4 areas that you're really sourcing and focusing in, so eBay can reward you with those enthusiastic buyers. But if you're just like, hey, whatever I find, whatever is out there, I'm just going to list that, I do think, number one, your competition is going to go higher, but I also think eBay is looking more for that one time, not that one time, but that buyer that they can hold on to, and they want somebody to be able to source items that person's going to constantly go back to. So be aware of that. Now, the other thing is why I don't think eBay is looking for an everything store as much as they used to, is that they're really pushing store promotions, and you see them all the time. You go to the listings, you see an item, and then on the top there's a banner for a store, right? And I think this is part of eBay's new layer of revenue that they want to make, is not only do they want people to push their items, but if they're looking for enthusiastic buyers, they're going to want people to have stores that have kind of like established categories, a lot of the same items, and then they want people to promote that over and over and over again. And so, those people that have been selling just shoes, or have been selling just finished t-shirts, kind of like they're very niche down, that's going to work to their advantage when they promote stores, because when you're looking for an item, it's kind of like if I need an item for my house, let's say I need a microphone, right? I'm not going to go to my thrift store looking for a microphone, right? I may check out the local audio store, I may check out Best Buy, I may go to Amazon, but I'm not going to go to a thrift store because they have all kinds of random stuff. Right. And I think that's what eBay their messaging is trying to be, is that, hey, if people are looking for a certain thing, have more of that item in hand. And so if you do that, then you can have a store. And then if you have that store and it's niche down, you can promote it more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the reality is, people can still search an individual item on eBay. But I think the algorithm is probably going to promote and push the stores where it's likely that a buyer is going to be able to buy an item and then go into your store and buy multiple, because buyers like to combine shipping. Buyers like when they can get deals like buy 2 get 1 50% off. Buyers like they like credibility too, right? So if you sold 400 baseball cards over the last year, you're probably going to have a higher push in the algorithm for baseball cards than me if I've just found one random baseball card and list it. Now, of course, if I have the one that people are looking for and that big store doesn't, I'm still going to have a better shot. But at the same time, if I'm trying to compete and everything else is the same, pricing is the same, shipping's the same, everything else is the same, I feel like the algorithm will push the store because, again, the person is going to be able to buy maybe multiple cards from one person and get different, combined shipping. So that is going to be the push. I think part of that is just buyer habit, and then part of that is eBay trying to push that a little bit. So I definitely think that there is something to be said about them pushing stores, even with the way they advertise on, the new banners for stores being pushed up on the top. So that definitely makes a big difference there.
I don't know. Let us know in the chat. Do you think we're off here? Do you think eBay wants people to continue having everything stores, or do they want people to niche down? Right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I think it's fine if you are an everything store. I just think you're gonna not do as well potentially. And again, like, I have no desire at this moment to niche down into one thing, but I think I could be doing better if I knew for sure I could source nothing but RC airplanes or whatever it was that I was doing well on. Another thing that we're noticing, this kind of goes along the same idea, is eBay's been very focused on pushing collectibles and auto parts and other categories like that. For instance, if you watch their commercials are for auto parts, or their commercials are for, maybe it's like Nike shoes, and so they have like their shoe authentication, or they have, certain type of clothing stuff. So there are certain things they'll advertise and push. But the days of like, hey, you need a VCR, go on to eBay. You need this, go on to eBay. I think that's losing it's what it's known for, right? Like, you talk a lot about, like, when you think of eBay, that's what you think of. You think of basically just any random thing you can think of, like, hey, I need a cap for this, thing that the cap fell off of, and I'm out, let me check eBay. But I think that has started to leave the collective conscious of the population as the younger generation is coming up. And part of that is probably because the way eBay is pushing things like just collectibles or just auto parts. That's where they're advertising. So that's what they're going to be known for.
Yeah. And then this last one here, and let us know if you have any questions or anything. But I really, I don't know. I don't have data for this. Okay. But this is from my experience with lots of resellers. This is from everything I'm seeing on social media. This is from my own experience. It seems that the algorithm struggles with everything stores, right? It struggles to continue to drive traffic. Like, I know people that have been listing every day and they haven't been getting consistent sales. I know people that have 13 items in their, not 13 items, 13,000 items, 13,000 items in their store, and their sales have dipped, right? No matter how big their sales have gotten, as far as like the amount of items in their store, their sales have dipped. But I know others that, hey, they continue, right, to source the same thing, whether it be vintage t-shirts, whether it be a certain kind of toy, whether it be a certain kind, maybe they just do musical instruments. And it kind of makes sense to me. Like, if you're listing like all kinds of random stuff, at one moment you're listing a Korg keyboard, and then on another moment you're listing like some textbook, and then on another moment you're listing some kind of inflatable. Like, how does the algorithm know where to push? Now, how does it deal with it, right? But if you're constantly doing the same thing, it would seem that it would get more to you, traffic sent to you, because it would be easier instead of having this huge amount of just random stuff that's kind of like being thrown out there. And again, I want to let you guys all know I'm talking to myself, because I am that guy. I will list all kinds of random stuff every single day, and my sales just don't come through sometimes. So let's see. Patrick here at the comment says, not sure if it is eBay wants versus the algorithm rewards the person with more sales of the same item. For instance, bought a bunch of raspberry and sold them all in 8 in 5 days. So once I sold one, it rewarded me with more sales, even though I was priced at market. And again, that's it's anecdotal, but I think a lot of us could say that's the case. Like,
ooh, Raspberry Pi. So we were struggling with what Raspberry and was.
Okay,
nice.
okay.
Raspberry Pi. I've talked about those quite a bit on the podcast. Nice. I'm glad, Patrick, you were able to pick some of those up.
But I've said before, like, it's kind of weird, like when all you're listing is one item, and then you accept an offer on one of those. All right, let's say they're Allen Edmonds shoes. Next thing you know, you get another Allen Edmonds sale, and then next day you get another one, right? So I think I don't know. Again, this is all speculation, but I truly do believe that the algorithm has an easier time directing traffic towards you, because it kind of can predict, hey, what are you listing, what are you selling, and all that stuff. So I don't know, but I really do get the sense that the everything store is still a place to make money. It takes more work. It takes more hustle. It takes, I don't know if more items, but it definitely sell through is more important. Consistent listing. But again, you can have an everything store, but I would encourage everyone to maybe have 3 or 4 categories that you very much specifically are always sourcing and putting those items in. So you get those, enthusiastic buyers that are repeat buyers, and you continue making that profit and continue being successful on eBay. All right, Mike, you have anything else to add here?
No, I think that's good. Make sure to tune in, guys, to our Wednesday episode. We go into a little bit more depth on some of this stuff, and with some like more data and analogies and kind of figuring out the practical application of that. And then the hustles of the week that we have coming up on Wednesday are incredible. So make sure you don't miss that episode.
All right, and thank you everyone for joining us. And as always, make sure to be real,
Be relevant,
and be reselling. Lates.
Peace.